We do not have to see you at the airport catching flights not fearless. Everything about his release is public. Even though they weren't directly targeted or named by Rayful, it doesn't mean that they weren't affected by his decision. Well, we just gathered not too long ago to discuss our poll. And now we are gathered here today to discuss Rayful Edmond gaining majority of his freedom. And of course, I'll explain that shortly. What's up, everybody? It's your girl B Octavia, and I am back with another video. If you do not know who I am, my name is B Octavia. I'm from Washington, D.C., and I'm 27 years old. Most of us over here, we know who Rayful is, but we do have to be mindful about those who don't. The generations coming up under us have no idea. They also have no idea that his outcome could be theirs as well. You might be tested in a way where you're sent to federal prison and sentenced to life, and then you have a decision that you either should or shouldn't make in turning to state's evidence. A lot of people don't expect to be put in that position, and depending on what they choose, it could burn or sting them for the rest of their lives. So let's begin. Rayful Edmond is a former drug trafficker who moved large amounts of cocaine, approximately 1,000 to 2,000 kilos a week. He rubbed elbows with Pablo Escobar's gang, which is the Colombian cartel. He rubbed elbows with a son of Griselda Blanco, mayors, politicians, among other very, very powerful people. A lot of it is about the connections that you can acquire. If we think of connections to the Colombian cartel, you have to be very smart, not just to gain that connection, but to keep it. By all accounts, Rayful is responsible for the crack crisis being as bad as the bubonic plague. To play devil's advocate, of course, we know that there were many other dealers on the East Coast, period. Rayful is not the only one, but he was one of the biggest hustlers with the best connections. By 1989, Washington, D.C. had approximately 434 homicides that year. In 1991, D.C. broke its own record with 482 homicides, officially solidifying D.C. as the murder capital. And even when I was coming up, a lot of people would call D.C. Death City. At the very young age of 24, Rayful Edmond was arrested for drug distribution and eventually was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He got another 30 years added onto his life in prison. He was still dealing drugs while in federal prison. Rayful may be known notoriously for selling drugs at a high capacity, but he is also notoriously known for cooperating with the government for 17 years, starting directly after he was caught dealing drugs while in federal prison. Just as he is responsible for introducing crack cocaine to the District of Columbia and surrounding areas, he is also responsible for helping the feds prosecute over 100 drug dealers. From all of Rayful's statements and reliable information given to the feds, his sentence dropped tremendously, and after 35 years behind the wall, here we are now. On July 31st, Rayful Edmond was transferred from federal prison to community confinement in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, what is community confinement? Community confinement is a condition of one's probation or supervised release. It involves one residing in a halfway house, restitution center, mental health facility, and the list goes on and on. In Rayful's case, he is either on house arrest or he is in a halfway house until his official freedom date of November 8th, 2025. When the video of Rayful came out of him at the airport, I instantly said, "You're back, but you not here." It's crazy because that video was for DC. I know it. For DC specifically to know that he's back. If he's as smart as I think he is, he would know that he can't come back and be celebrated like a drug kingpin would. A drug kingpin that folded on his city is going to have a hard time whether he come back here or he ends up having a social media platform and stuff like that. It's not going to be easy. There are certain commonalities when it comes to drug kingpins or drug dealers from back in the day, street legends, whatever you want to call them, right? All of the terms are bad. All of them are bad. There's no way around it. But the difference in folks' experiences is this. Even though Rayful and Alpo both snitched, an action that is very deplorable when you had a street life. In Alpo's experience, he made a mess in a city that was not his own. He made way less of a mess in New York. Rayful, on the other hand, made a name for himself in one of the grimiest cities on the East Coast. Very, very hard to do. And people celebrated him then for that. His crew was feared. They knocked the competition out of Rayful's way. Not one hair was ever touched on Rayful's head, whether there was bounties or not. And that was due to the thorough people around him. And most importantly, before it was revealed that Rayful Edmond turned to state's evidence, he still had good folks that would come see him, make sure he had stuff on his books, because maybe his shit, in his organization, he wasn't getting his proper cut. But those good folks felt betrayed. Even though they weren't directly targeted or named by Rayful in any statements, it doesn't mean that they weren't affected by his decision. To make such a mess in your own city, in a lot of people's eyes, there's nothing left to celebrate. Especially when you look at the state of DC now. If anybody ride through this bitch, you'll see young and old tweakers. And this shit is from generations and generations before we was even put here. Not only was cocaine normalized, crack cocaine started to be normalized. It was normalized for dealers to sell to anybody. The only thing that the crack epidemic helped was people like Rayful. And all of us, all of the generations after, had to pay for it. I'm actually surprised that he isn't going into witness protection. He probably opted out of going into witness protection if it was up to him. But if it wasn't up to him, or if it wasn't an option, I'm looking at the feds like, is y'all trying to set him up? Y'all trying to set this man up, ain't y'all? Because if I was him, or if I was somebody in that position, I would feel a little bit paranoid that everything about his release is public, down to where he will be located. I mean, such a well-known person that has told on people in the Colombian cartel. I just thought surely that some shit would be confidential with this, but I don't know. Like, after I seen that video, it just felt like the same shit that Alpo was on. What's the word that I use, y'all? Undaunted. Undaunted spirit. Because we do not have to see you at the airport catching flights, not feelings. And for those who will ask, doesn't he deserve to be released? 35 years is a long time to do, isn't it? Yeah. It's a long time for any man to do. But when I think of 35 years in prison, I think about people who actually are innocent, who have been serving a life sentence and they 35 years into it, knowing that there is little to no evidence, no DNA. It's people that has either been sentenced extremely harshly for marijuana that are still in prison today after 35 years. There are people who truly don't deserve and didn't deserve to be confined for a very long time. So that can be a question that a lot of people can answer, but I probably will answer it with another question. I just don't understand how child molesters, rapists, very, very diabolical people, as well as folks who were responsible for something so huge and for something that can be deemed a epidemic, that's still very much so an epidemic today. How can these people be out? How can these people continue to be released when there are so many other cases that need to be reopened, sentences and convictions that need to be overturned, and this is what we're doing? But I always knew from a very early age that the feds have some shit that I would categorize as a popularity contest. And if you have reliable information on hundreds and thousands of people, regardless of it being documented, you were the one who called hits on people, they did. You had massive loads of cocaine coming into the nation's capital, and you can be out one day. It is a long time, but as far as what he deserves, it depends on who you ask. What I will say is there are two ways, in my opinion, to go about being released and having a second chance after so long. After 35 years, after 20 years, after 24 years. There is a way about living once you get a second chance. Once you get out after doing such a long bid. A bid that could change any man for better or for worse. You can either have Wallow's approach or you can have Alpo's approach. Wallow came out of prison and unleashed so much motivation, passion, and useful advice. He came out on a mission to be better than his younger self and built a business by being thorough. You can have his approach. It's very profitable. It's very positive. It won't end up getting them locked back up. Or you can have Alpo Martinez's approach. Useless videos floating on the net of you wanting to be celebrated and gawked at like it's 1985. Making disrespectful documentaries, speaking ill of the people that did right by you. And most importantly, not making any business moves. Being so successful in the drug game. But what was so surprising to me, as well as a lot of people, was that he didn't have the same drive to at least do a professional interview or two. Everybody talks shit about sitting with Vlad, but sit with Vlad. It's a good move, regardless of how you feel about him or what, you know what I mean? And people end up doing it anyway, so I heard he paid folk. Alpo could have did a tell-all book or two. And Rayful already did one of them things with the pointless airport video. Because my thing was, when he was saying, I'm back, and he had the little fan right there, his friend / fan, I thought that he was all the way free. And he finna go on vacation, do his motherfucking thing as a free man. Now, what surprised me, after reading through certain articles and things to that nature is the nigga ain't even free all the way. You should have waited. Cause you finna, like, you should have just waited. Wait until you all the way free. And only time will tell what approach that he will go with. And if he will show and tell that he learned in doing 35 years in the feds. I want to see it. I want to hear it. Only time will tell if he will make business moves. Because a lot of people think that all drug dealers can make good businessmen. It's not always true. Just because you have this organization and it turns out to be very successful doesn't mean that in legal business you can have the same mindset and it will grow. Not necessarily true. That's why a lot of times people end up having a business such as Rayful did back in the days, and it just simply be a front for money laundering when it could have just been a profitable legal business. He is majority of the way free. Due to his conditions of his release, he probably can't do no interviews yet or nothing like that. So I just don't get the announcement with you not being all the way free. He hasn't been in an airport in decades, so I know that felt fun. But I noticed, as well as a subscriber noticed, the look on the guy that was in the video's face. He looked like he just wanted his picture for himself and get the fuck on. You feel me? Alright, Rayful finna catch a flight, not no feelings. And I got my picture, you know, with my buddy. But you want to know how fake it is? You want to know how funny and fake it is, though? It's funny and it's fake because motherfuckers will want regular stuff, like with a friend of theirs that just got out after doing so long, but he ain't expect that to be no video and it to just be seen by thousands and thousands of people. He's potentially going to be put in a hot seat, or people is going to, because that's how DC and the DMV is. People ask questions that they really not supposed to ask. Like, it's like their intrusive thoughts win every single time. He might get asked questions about Rayful on a daily basis, and it's up to him if he want to answer all that or not. But I know that he didn't expect that. That's the thing, like, after somebody turns into a informant, once they get out, because the snitch is just gonna get out, let's just say that, whoever supports them after that, and trust me folks, is gonna be watching, like, whoever supports them after that, you're gonna get looked at crazy. You're gonna get looked at crazy. You might have people talking on the side after you leave the room. Like, it's just what comes with it. So with his second chance, he just got to make better decisions. It's your girl, B. Octavia. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for tuning in. And I will see y'all in my next video.